In this video, we'll be taking a look at this monkey scratching his butt. Also, we'll be doing some multiple choice questions on the topic of muscle and contraction. So let's just get into it. Try the question by yourself first. So, what is bone X and muscle Y in the diagram of the elbow joint? So to clear things up, this picture right here is essentially this part of a human. So we have the upper arm and then the forearm. We know the forearm is made up of two bones, and then the upper arm one bone called the humerus. So the humerus would be here, and then the two forearm bones, basically like this. There's one forearm bone, and here is another forearm bone. Okay, so, and this is the scapula, so your scap, and this, okay, so basically, what is structure X? So structure X is one of the two forearm bones. So either the radius or the ulna. The way you know this is the radius, so it would be radius, so it's either answer A or B. It's the radius because the biceps, so this muscle, always attaches to the radius, okay? The radius. It does not attach to the ulna. So we know therefore that it will be either A or B, okay? Because the biceps always attaches to one of the forearm bones called the radius. Now the back muscle of the arm, so this would be the biceps. The one at the back is called the triceps. So we know therefore that structure X is the radius and structure Y is the muscle called the tricep. So the answer would be B. Okay. It's also easy to know because the triceps attach not to the forearm bones over here. It attaches really at the joint. Okay. So let's get on to the next one. What is the role of calcium in muscle contraction? So this is a really, really important question. So if you don't know how the concept of muscle contraction works, I recommend you really watch a video on it first, because otherwise you may not understand this. But I'll explain a little bit anyways, okay? So let's get into it. So we know, so let's take this biker guy here. He's got massive, massive legs, massive leg muscles. When we look at the structure, we can see this is the whole muscle. The muscle is made up of small bundles of muscle. Each bundle of muscle is made up of muscle cells called muscle fiber. So this is one muscle fiber. We know if we look closely at this muscle fiber, we'll see this kind of structure. This is the inside of one muscle cell. We can see that it's made up of many, many small pipes like this called myofibrils, okay? Myofibrils. These units, these sections are the things that contract. So if all of these myofibrils contract, the muscle cell will contract, and then the whole muscle will contract, okay? So where does calcium come into this? So our brain decides when we move our muscle, right? So when we send a signal via a neuron, this is a nerve cell. The nerve cell will transfer this signal to our muscle fiber. It will travel along the muscle fiber membrane and go down these tubules, these yellow tubules called T-tubules. So when it travels down this T-tubule, it will come down here next to this blue structure called the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So when it comes down this T-tubule, the signal transfers from the T-tubule to the sarcoplasmic reticulum. When it reaches this sarcoplasmic reticulum, the signal essentially triggers the sarcoplasmic reticulum to release calcium. So when the calcium is released from this blue structure, you can notice this blue structure surrounds in a circle. It surrounds in a circle all of these myofibrils. So once it releases calcium due to the signal from your brain, the calcium will come onto these myofibrils and cause muscle contraction to happen. Okay? So your mind triggers calcium to be released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum onto the myofibrils. Okay? So now we're looking here at a myofibril. So this is a myofibril. Now we're going to look at it, okay? So now here's an entire, this is one sarcomere, so one section of a myofibril. If we look at this specific section here, we can see that this is how it looks like in a bit more detail. So when calcium comes in, this is calcium, as I just mentioned, what it does is it goes and it binds to this black thing. This black thing is called troponin. When it binds to troponin, it activates troponin to move this blue line out of the way. This blue line is called tropomyosin. So once it activates this blue line to move, then we can see that the yellow section is open now, the yellow and green section, which means actin is exposed. So once actin is exposed like this, now we know that these myoglobins, these myosin heads can bind. So once these myosin heads can now bind, because it's been freed up, before it was trapped, it wasn't open, but now that calcium bind to troponin, causing tropomyosin to move off, now these myoglobins can bind. And once they bind, they're like a little hand. They will drag and pull on this actin, just like this. Look, it will like rotate and pull. And as it pulls it, it will move. And just like this, contraction happens. So now, this whole thing will shift like this and contract, right? So this is how contraction essentially happens, okay? So that's the role that calcium plays. Very, very important. So which answer here will match? Let's take a look. So calcium. Calcium, to release tropomyosin from myosin. So tropomyosin is this blue line. It is not attached to myosin, right? We saw tropomyosin is attached to actin, this yellow-green structure, okay? Actin. So this statement is just wrong because tropomyosin is not attached to myosin, so this is not true. B, to bind to troponin, so myosin binding sites can be on actin are exposed. This is true. We saw it binds to troponin, this black structure, causing the tropomyosin to move, allowing the binding spots on actin to be exposed for the myosin to bind to. Okay, so this one is true. It's definitely B. To bind to now we're going to eliminate these just in case, just so you understand clearly. To bind to tropomyosin, so ATP can bind to actin. Okay, so this is not true because calcium, we know, binds to troponin, not to tropomyosin. So C is also not correct. Okay, D, to release ATP from actin, so myosin can bind to troponin. Okay, we know myosin does not bind to troponin, so this is just wrong. Myosin tries to bind to actin. It tries to bind to actin. Okay, so this one is finished. This question is over. These are quite tricky, but if you know the process well and you think clearly and slowly and eliminate the wrong ones in addition to choosing the right one, you will most likely get it right quite comfortably. So here's another one. What is required? And so look here, interestingly, you see how these questions are 38, 38, 37, 38. This is because in the IB, they always put the same type of question at the same place. So these questions are all from different exams, but you notice they're the same question. So you notice IB is very predictable. They always put questions at the same part in each exam. So you'll most likely get a question on muscle and contraction at around the 37 to 38 mark range of question. Okay, so what is required for a skeletal muscle to exert force? Okay, what does exert force mean? Exert force means to make movement, okay? So, let's look. Let's just look at this. Extensor and flexor muscles. Okay, let's see if this is true. You need extensor and flexor muscles to exert force. Let's look. So let's put a muscle here. Now, let's say it contracts. Did this cause movement of your arm? Did this cause exertion of force, meaning movement of your arm? No, it didn't, right? It can cause contraction, but it didn't move anything. It didn't create any force because it's by itself. So this is not enough. It cannot be A because extensor and flexor muscles simply contract. They don't cause movement or they don't exert force. So we need something more important. Okay, how about synovial joints? So a synovial joint is basically this. It's where two bones meet and there's a sort of capsule. And in between there's like this fluid called synovial fluid, making the bones not rub against each other directly. It makes it smooth, okay? So they're saying this allows movement to happen. That's not true. You can take away this capsule and this fluid and the bones can still move as long as there's muscle and bone, right? Because this capsule is not essential for movement. It doesn't have to be there and the bones can still move. It may just hurt a lot because the bones will then rub against each other and cause a lot of pain. Okay, so definitely not A or B. How about C? attachment to bones. So this is the right answer. It is required that skeletal muscles attached to a bone for force to be able to happen. Because look, a muscle by itself doesn't do anything. A bone by itself doesn't do anything. But if you have a bone with a muscle on, like this, and the muscle shortens or contracts, then the bone will move. Okay? So the only way you can exert force is if muscle is attached to bones. Okay? So it is required that skeletal muscle, remember skeletal muscle is muscle that is on your skeleton. So muscle that you can control. So it's required that this skeletal muscle is on your bones, otherwise you can't create force or movement, okay? Muscle by themselves is not enough. You need bones as well. So what about ligaments? Ligaments hold bones together, right? So this would be a ligament. So let's take away the muscle here. A ligament would hold bones together. Can this cause movement? No, because muscle causes movement. As long as muscle is attached to bone, movement can happen. But if muscle is gone and there's just ligament and bone, that can't cause movement, right? Like, no. Like, if we put ligament on the bone, will that cause movement? No. So you need bone and muscle to cause movement. So therefore, the answer is C. Okay, let's get to two more. What is a function of synovial fluid in the elbow joint? Okay, remember how I just showed this diagram? By the way, I use this template to make my videos, so if you don't get anything on this video, if you want to find out, just go watch the video. Okay, so here I have this, right? And I said this is a synovial joint. Synovial fluid is basically the liquid inside here. It's a slippery liquid. They're saying, they're asking what the purpose of this is. So, joins the humerus to the radius and the ulna. So, here we have the humerus. Okay, this is your forearm bone, or your upper arm bone, and your radius and your ulna are these two bones. They're saying the synovial fluid joins these two bones together. No, that's not true. All it does is it makes it slippery so that the bones don't rub against each other, as I just mentioned. So what's the thing that actually holds bones together? That's called ligaments. Ligaments always hold bones together. These little lines here. They attach bones to one another, just like this image I showed here. This is a ligament, this one. So here are bones. It's a little glue that holds bones together, okay? So based on this, the answer will be this one. Allows for easy movement because it makes it slippery in between the bones so that you can move your bones smoothly. It does not join the humerus to the ulna or the humerus to the radius and the ulna. It does not grow red blood cells. Red blood cells are made within your bones, not in the synovial fluid. It's made within the bone marrow, the inside of your bones. How about C? Protects the biceps. No, it does not have anything to do with your biceps. It's just part of the joint. Okay, last one. A skeletal muscle contains bundles of elongated muscle fiber cells. What is the longest structure within each fiber? Okay, this should be pretty easy. So here we have, as I saw in this picture, okay, we have a muscle cell. This is a muscle fiber, okay, synonyms, they are synonyms. They're asking what the longest structure inside a muscle fiber is. So if we look closely at a muscle fiber, we know it's made up of these myofibrils. Myofibrils look like this, okay? So we have the actin, myosin, Z lines, and all these kind of things. So what is the longest structure within a muscle fiber? They're saying a myosin filament. So what is a myosin filament? That is this one, the green one. From here, it's pretty much from here to here and from here to here. Okay, let's see what's the next one. The sarcomere. Okay, the sarcomere is from one Z line to another Z line. So remember, Z lines repeat. So here we have two sarcomeres. 1, 2. And here we have, let me show you this. Here we have 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's a sarcomere. So we can see a sarcomere is longer than a myosin filament, right? So far, it should be B, but let's continue. A myofibril. Oh, this is going to be the answer because we know a myofibril is made up of many sarcomeres. So let's go back here. So here we have a myofibril, right? It is super long and it is made up of many sarcomeres. So one sarcomere, two sarcomeres, super, super long. One myofibril is made up of many sarcomeres. So a myofibril would be the longest one. So a Z line is not long at all, right? It's pretty much just this line. So therefore, C must be the answer. So I hope this video made some sense, and I'm going to be making more question videos on the same topic. So another part soon.